And the murder rate, you can't keep saying violent crime is down, but the murder rate's up. To the average person, the murder rate's about life and death. You don't brag about a rising murder rate. And the Democrats are, I agree with you, Mika, they're falling into the trap of defending what's indefensible.
It's a trap. Yes, it's a trap. I mean, if it's not a winner politically to say, oh, you're wrong, look at the data. Because, you know, if one violent crime happens in a very heavily populated part of the city, people hear about it, and it's visceral. They don't want it.
That's Chris Matthews and the crew of Morning Joe finally saying out loud what Democrats have been pretending not to notice. Crime is killing them politically. When even liberal lunatics on MSNBC start admitting the obvious, you know their Democrat-issued narrative is in trouble. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and it looks like we've hit that rare moment when even the liberal establishment can't keep up the act, because President Trump's crime crackdown in DC has exposed the gap between political spin and what people actually live with every day. You know, it's easy to mock perception versus reality until voters start siding with reality. I mean, here's Joe Scarborough laying into liberals who think data points can override lived experience.
The answer to this problem for Democrats is not, oh, everything's okay, there's nothing to see here, move along, move along. Oh, Washington has dropped 24% or whatever in crime. Well, let me give you some other numbers. The Washington Post took a poll at late April, early May. 91% of Washington residents say crime is a problem. 91%. 51%, it is an extremely serious problem. And John Heilman, we've had people before put this in racial terms. And this is, I must say, this is one thing that I think Democrats have gotten so wrong about crime. So wrong about crime. Let me just read the Washington Post here. There are stark divides among lines of race and income in the poll, with black residents and lower income residents significantly more worried about crime than white residents and those with higher incomes. As they were last year, black women are among the most concerned, with 65% saying crime is a very or extremely serious issue, compared with 82% who said the same thing.
You know, liberals love to claim they're the champions of minorities, then turn around and ignore what poor black and Hispanic residents are actually going through in high crime neighborhoods. I mean, they're once again acting like waving a few crime stats around will erase the daily reality of carjackings, assaults, and open-air drug markets. It's the same elitist playbook. Lecture the public, call them racist if they complain, and dismiss their concerns as perception. But it's not perception when your neighborhood changes for the worse. Democrats are so deep in their bubble they don't even realize identity politics is backfiring on them here. Here's CNN talking to a lifelong DC resident who sees right through all of their hollow virtue signaling.
I think this is long overdue. I've been one of the National Guards in this area for years. I like it. I love it. I feel safe already.
Longtime D.C. resident and community advocate Sandra Seegers is welcoming President Donald Trump's law enforcement and National Guard surge in the nation's capital because of the crime she sees in her neighborhood, much of which she says goes unaddressed and causes her to live in fear.
When I wait a while, listen for sirens or more shooting or running, then I come to the door and see what's going on.
Seegers is one of two community leaders we spoke to in Southeast D.C.'s Ward 8, one of the city's areas hardest hit by crime and poverty.
You know, when an older black woman from D.C. says she's on board with Trump's crackdown, that's not a Fox News plant. It's a voice the left claims to care about but clearly isn't listening to. I mean, this is someone who's watched her community suffer for decades while politicians in safe neighborhoods argue about over-policing. And she's saying enough is enough. enough. That's why Trump's move to federalize the DC police and bring in the National Guard hits like another 80-20 issue. The people living with the consequences want safety, and the establishment want to keep debating theory while Hollywood elites downplay crime. That disconnect is why Democrats keep losing working class voters. Here's Joe breaking rank again by pointing out that even some of the most entrenched liberal media hacks agree with Trump but are too scared to admit it.
And I want to read you a text from someone who I won't say their name, but they're we'll just say that they're very liberal. And he says, this may sound controversial, but I'm not totally opposed to Trump's National Guard move in D.C. I know he's doing it for politics, but crime remains rampant. I've had too many friends carjacked, shot at. None of us will walk more than 3 blocks after 8 p.m. 13-year-olds are committing many of these crimes. Quite a change from a decade ago when things were much calmer. Well, that actually sounds like the D.C. that I lived in when I lived a block behind the Supreme Court. And, you know, every 3 days, one of my neighbors was getting held up at gunpoint. I mean, there has been a crime problem in D.C. This is an interesting thing where I'll hear, you know, I actually heard from a reporter when this happened going, well, you know, if he doesn't overreach, this is actually a good thing for quality of life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because D.C. right now, I had this happen to my family and I had that, and they go down the list, and then saw him tweet something completely different. So D.C., there has been a problem in D.C. It's not as bad as it was 2 or 3 years ago, but it's not as safe as Manhattan. It's not as safe as the nation's capital should be. By the way, I've lived in D.C. for 32 years. I can go chapter and verse if you'd like me to.
You know, when even the cocktail circuit crowd quietly nods along with Trump's policies, it's clear the tide has turned. I mean, Simone Sanders jumping in to shut him down just proves his point about echo chambers. Joe's lived in D.C. for 32 years, but somehow his experience is dismissed in favor of the correct identity-based hierarchy of who gets to speak. It's the same old game, feelings over facts, credentials over common sense. Democrats can't afford to have this conversation honestly because it would mean admitting Trump is right. And in their world, that's worse than the crime problem itself. But let me know what you think. Do you believe Democrats are losing the crime debate because they refuse to listen to the people living with it? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye.